Hey there, I'm Nick from Sundance, and behind me is the Cutwater C-32 Command Bridge. It's a new model this year. As part of our 2020 virtual boat show series, we're going to take an in-depth look at this boat today. Okay, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough with you and show you some of the highlights before we go into more detail, which is going to take a lot more time. So back here in the cockpit, we have seating all over. These seats built in that flip out the sides. We have a grill back here. We have access to fuel and storage below the cockpit. Access to the Flybridge right here up the port side. This opens up and we have a seat here. I'll show you how that works. There's a little guest berth under here or storage. How this converts to a berth. How this seat flips around for your helm seat. Over here we have the galley. We have really good visibility in this boat. People walk into this boat and they're just overwhelmed by the natural light, the use of space, the layout, and all the innovative features. And it feels like a boat. It feels warm. Really nice upholstery choices and wood choices. Of course, it's real wood. Stateroom, really spacious, lots of storage. And then the head, also really spacious. A lot of ventilation throughout, a lot of opening windows. So those are some of the highlights. If you want to stay tuned, I'm going to go into a lot more detail and show how a lot of these features work, give some more detailed explanations. Thanks for tuning in. So we're going to start at the back of the boat and work our way forward. Later we're going to take the boat out on a sea trial, and I'm going to wait until the sea trial to talk about any performance numbers. So the new C-32 Command Bridge, we have twin 300 horsepower Yamahas, and we have this innovative feature, this swim platform. One of the really amazing new features on the new C-32 Command Bridge from Cutwater is this extra large, extra long swim platform. It's free from obstructions as you walk across the platform. Most outboard boats will have rigging going across from the motors into the transom of the boat. Fuel lines, a wiring harness, hydraulic steering. They went to a lot of effort at Cutwater so that you wouldn't have that on this boat. It's all routed underneath. This is all proprietary stuff that Cutwater designed, and then you see some of it is molded in, and all of that equipment is routed underneath. It's out of the way, which makes it so you can board from either side, and they've extended the swim platform all the way to the back of the outboards for stern tying. And it also gives you some more running surface on the bottom, which will increase the efficiency because it has a longer running surface. On the starboard side of the swim platform, we have this integrated swim ladder. And this bungee, probably be around here, the bungee to keep everything together, and then it closes up. On the port side of the swim platform, we have this box, which contains 2 propane tanks for the propane stove and oven in the galley that we'll take a look at here in a minute. On the starboard side, just before we come into the cockpit, there's a fuel fill for the gas right here. We have a cup holder, fishing rod holder, and here's what the door looks like. And it has friction hinges. It won't swing. If you leave it, it stays in position. Right here, we have a sink and a grill and kind of a food prep area. Put your hot dog and hamburger buns up here and plates as you prepare food. So we have a Kenyan electric grill back here with this windshield. And under the electric grill, we have a live well for fish or bait or crab, and the sink. And then these bungees secure the lid in place when it's not in use. And then in front of all that, we have this seat, and it's part of all the integrated seating in the cockpit. This is a really cool seat. There's one on both sides. I'll show you how this works. As you can see, it hangs out over the water, which it's just cool. It feels cool. It's fun to sit in the seat like that. And then it disappears, locks into place like that. And there's an LED indicator light at the helm to tell you if this seat is in the open position. As an extra, just kind of a warning, you can operate the boat with the seat open, but it warns you. And we have the same thing on this side. And then right here, so this pins into place to keep that secure, so it's locked now. And then you have a footrest there. So 2, 4, 6, 7 seats. That way you don't have to carry deck chairs with you. Everything's built in. So another really cool feature is we have a TV right here, and it can be used from the inside or the outside. I'm going to show you how it works from out here. So the mount locks into multiple positions, so you can view it from different angles, but that's essentially how it works. This is hooked up to the Garmin up front, so you can actually put your fish finder, depth sounder on this screen. So if you're fishing back here in the cockpit, you have that right here. We can turn it around and use it on the inside. Just like that. And it's on a gas shock, so it pretty much holds itself up. Some latches on the inside secure it in place. All right, we have a lot more in the cockpit I'm gonna show you. First of all, the door has this nice door stop and it locks open. So we'll get that out of the way. Here we have a little fridge slash freezer for drinks, maybe your catch of the day. Here we have a fusion control for the stereo, and you have speakers out here too, in the corners aft. Downrigger plates and downrigger plugs. And this is heat from the diesel furnace. So if you were to put an enclosure around the cockpit back here, you actually have heat plumbed into the cockpit, which is really nice. So if it's cold, you can use this as kind of an extension of the living space with heat. So we're gonna go through what's under the cockpit floor. We have a storage box, and this can be removed for access to the house batteries, which are about right here. We have 3 switches right here and a hose bib. This switch is for the washdown pump, the raw water washdown pump, which fills the live well, gives you access to a washdown right here. The second one is the fish box macerator pump out. So there's a macerator pump to pump out the live well. And then the bilge pump, so a manual override for the bilge pump down below. And another cup holder, another rod holder, another cup holder, lots of cup holders on the boat. On the starboard side, we have a really big, nice storage area and access to some equipment. So forward, the engine and thruster batteries. And then we have the inverter charger, which is that big unit there. The smaller unit in front of that is the solar charge controller. It's not the remote unit. There's a remote unit inside for controlling it, but that's the charging unit. That one right there is the pump for the Garmin Autopilot. This pump is power steering pump for the hydraulic power steering. It's it down there. And then this nice big open space in the middle for lines, fenders, inflatable kayaks, and a boat hook. Another downrigger plate, downrigger plug, fusion speakers. Over here is how we open the middle, the main access. Here's what we have. We have these 2 boxes, which can be removed. They can be pulled out, but they're included for convenience. Under the 2 storage boxes are the fuel tanks. There's 2 fuel tanks. They're 150 gallons each for a total of 300 gallons of fuel, and they're both center line. It won't cause the boat to list if you burn fuel unevenly. We have the aft tank, which you can see the aft end of the aft tank right there, and then the forward tank, which we'll be able to spot from further forward. And then what we have here is one of the fuel fill lines. There's access to the sender which goes up front and displays on your gauge how much fuel you have in the boat. And then lines coming off the fuel tanks to the fuel filters, which then those lines go back to the engines. And then further aft, we have access to the stern thruster. We have 2 bilge pumps down there, your regular, normal, everyday bilge pump, and then kind of the backup high water bilge pump, which is hooked up to an alarm further forward. Raw water pickup and a strainer for the raw water pickup. Oh, the raw water pump is back there, mounted against the transom, and the macerator pump for the discharge, the fish box, live well, is also back there. Over here we have some light switches, just cockpit lights. They are down below. There's one over there. Just a little blue LED light. Underwater lights, so the boat's got underwater lights in the back. And then overhead lights, there's white and red up above. In here, we have the main battery switches. They're all labeled, very easy to understand. So we have a house switch, bow thruster, stern thruster, a parallel, port engine, starboard engine, and another parallel. So this first parallel will parallel the port engine with the other battery banks, like the house bank. And then the other parallel will parallel the 2 engines together. So what those are for is if your engine batteries go dead and you can't start the boat, then you can engage the parallels and start the engines off the house bank. But for the most part, you want to leave those off so that the battery banks function as designed separately. Okay, moving inside. To port, we have the galley. There's a lot of interesting things going on here, which I'll show you. This galley countertop or countertop cover, depending on how you look at it, folds and flips up for access to the stove and oven, the sink, and then up here is a seat, which I'll show you in just a minute. But this is cool. So if you're not going to use the stove, you can keep this covered up, and then you have all this prep surface. Or if you're not going to use the sink, of course you can cover that up and you have all the even more surface. And then the fridge and freezer right there. To flip this seat up, it's really easy. That goes up and clips to the wall. And then you have this seat. Forward facing, nice, great visibility. That's one of the great things about this boat is you have such good visibility, 360-degree visibility. Microwave, and then a lot of storage. All this cabinetry is built by Cutwater in-house. You can feel the quality and the craftsmanship. Looks like we have the stainless steel flagpole that comes with the boat. And on the starboard side, we have this dinette, which also has a bunch of different configurations. So we have it in the, I guess you could call it the dining configuration like this, 4-person dinette. This seat flips around like that to turn this into the helm seat. You can stand at the helm with excellent visibility, or you can sit in the seat. There's these footrests built in, which are just perfectly placed for your feet. And there's also these supports down here that you can stand on to kind of get up into the seat. In front of us, we have all of this good stuff. So the boat comes with 2 Garmin screens down below. Garmin Autopilot, Garmin VHF, Garmin Autopilot remote, wireless. This is the bow and stern thruster wireless remote. The spotlight control down here. Bow and stern thruster controls right here. This is the Yamaha ignition down here. Windlass controls here. There's a switch labeled thruster right here, and that actually turns on the receiver for the wireless thruster remote. So with that off, the remote is off. With that on, it works. And then over here we have pretty standard stuff. Wipers, Bilge pump. So the bilge pumps are on auto float switches, or not necessarily a float switch, but maybe an auto sensor. But you can override them right here with these switches. The macerator pump, so there's a macerator for the holding tank. Nav lights and anchor light, courtesy lights, and horn. We have some fans up front, defroster fans, dock lights, which look like headlights integrated into the hull in the front of the boat. Over here we have the Yamaha controls for the outboards, trim tab controls. This display is the Yamaha display. It's going to show all the Yamaha related stuff. So engine RPMs, it also has fuel level on it. It's going to give you your fuel economy, fuel flow, speed, engine hours. You can change screens, so you can get oil pressure, engine temp, all the basic engine stuff, and in fact some not so basic, more advanced engine stuff. On the Garmin screens, they're touch screen, of course. Here we can see Lake Union, which is where we are. We got Lake Washington over here, and then the Puget Sound out here. And if we go north, we got Whidbey Island, Deception Pass right there, Anacortes, San Juan Island. It looks like we have the chart orientation, so north is not up. We probably have, we have heading up, or course up. Let's see, sonar. So we're in 32 feet of water. We're not moving, so there's not a lot going on here. There's split screens, or combos as they call them, chart and sonar. So there's that nav chart we were just looking at, and then the depth sounder fish finder. But with two screens, you can do a lot. You can do chart, and you could do sonar over here, and radar. Turn on the radar, spinning up, takes a minute, but pretty soon oh, there we go. Of course, we're in a marina surrounded by boats, so we've got all these obstructions, so it's not gonna work very well. But when we go out on the water later, we can test this out. Autopilot. I think I mentioned that earlier, but you can engage the autopilot right here. You can make course corrections right here, and of course with the wireless remote too. This is the power steering control, so you can turn it on with that button there. I can hear the pump just spun up, and there's three modes, kind of a low power, medium power, and a high power mode. So low power, it's got a fish on it. It's for fishing, a little bit less responsive, all the way up to the high power, which is more like finger control when you're out on the water. Again, we'll test this out on the water. The normal mode or the medium is best for most applications. So under the helm seat, we have a wine cooler. Keep your wine bottles chilled. Forward, going into the stateroom, we have some stuff piled up on the bed here. These are canvas covers for windows and some of the seats outside. Well, one of the things about this boat is it's very complete. There's not like a base boat that doesn't have everything you need. The boats come from the factory very complete, and part of that is just having canvas covers for windows and exterior seats. So that's what those are. This is a bag for the grill. So if you take that electric Kenyon grill, if you remove that for access to the live well, the fish box, you can put the grill in here. And then this cushion right here, we'll set that up here in a minute. It goes in the dinette to fill that in to make that into another berth. So here we have the master stateroom. Under here, it's really good storage, a lot of ventilation and lighting, natural light. So we have these two hatches with mosquito screens. There's mosquito screens, bug screens for all the windows and portholes in the boat. So we can open these up for ventilation. In the video, you might notice some of these lights flashing. It's because they're LEDs and the camera has a hard time capturing the LEDs, but in real life, everything is smooth, perfect, normal, like lights should be. Here we have a TV. So in the position that it's in, it's great for watching from bed, but we can flip it around, and it has this locking arm on it. So we can lock it in place and watch it from either direction, kind of like the other TV. You can watch from either direction. They're both 12-volt TVs, so there is an inverter on the boat, but the TVs don't need to go through the inverter to work, which is nice. They're native 12-volt, and they both have DVD players built in. It goes back there, locks into place. And then we have storage here, a couple shelves, this curtain, if you have stuff stacked up in there. There's this little door to access the fusion unit. If you're plugging in more components, like maybe an XM satellite antenna, you can access this without removing the whole unit. Further up here, we have some storage over here. And this little desk, it pops down, perfect size for a laptop or a tablet. And a 110 outlet here and a 12-volt outlet. So for charging mobile devices or having something a little more substantial plugged in. And then we have the head. So there's a lot of room in here. And I'll show you how this works in a sec. But the shower it's a dry head because there's a separate shower stall here. These privacy curtains unsnap for access to these portholes. Storage here. And we have some storage behind a 110 outlet up here. Nice little mirror. And then right here, we have access to some 12-volt fuses. 2 different locations in the boat with some of these 12-volt fuse boxes. One back in the guest berth, and that has the 12-volt fuses for that half of the boat. And then this has stuff for up front, including navigation electronics. So we're on the other side of the helm. You can see like steering lines coming from the back of the steering wheel right here. So these are all really thoroughly labeled and easily accessible. Each fuse is labeled, so headlights, wine cooler, 12-volt outlet and the V-berth, shower pump, 12-volt outlet dash, network, VHF heater, stereo amplifier, trim tabs, and screen. And then we have the fuses here. Okay, now I'm going to convert this to some different configurations. So this, we have it in the kind of the running configuration with this seat facing forward. It's your helm seat. Really easy, flip it around like that. Now we have it in the dining configuration. There are some collars that we can loosen up on the base. And then we push this down. Probably going to need to slide this. There we go. And then lock these, flip this over. Now we're ready for the cushion. And then we'll slide this back. Perfect. So I am about 5'9", and I can stretch out here just fine. So to convert this back, just pull this cushion out. Loosen those collars, and this is assisted, so you don't really have to lift, you just guide. Lock these back down, and we're back. This seat back flips both directions so that you can turn this into that seating configuration for the cockpit that we showed earlier. And then this flips up. So down here we have a really spacious berth or storage area. I'm gonna lay down in here and show you how roomy it is. So again, I'm about 5'9", stretched out. I've got, I'd say, almost a couple feet of extra room down at my feet, as well as plenty of room up here. And there's windows down here for light and for ventilation. And then up here we have the 110 panel, the AC panel, basically shore power. We have a shore power main breaker, basically voltmeters for the different battery banks. So house, engine, thruster. Looks like we're about 13.5 for each right now, which is right where they should be. Water gauge, and then this switch turns on the water pump. And then here we have, let's say that's for the solar panel. So this is the controller for the solar panel charger. And the inverter control panel here, the Webasto diesel furnace control panel here. So to turn on the diesel furnace, we just press that little button in the middle. We've got a low heat, medium heat, high heat, and fan only option. And then the thermostat over here. And then this is just the light switch for the lighting down here. We have this nice Cutwater bag, owner's manuals for all the things on the boat, and a first aid kit. And then we have an outlet, a carbon monoxide detector, part of the propane system, and a 12-volt outlet. There's 12-volt outlets all over the boat. And here are those other 12-volt fuse boxes. And like the ones up front, they are labeled. See if I can pop that off. They're labeled really well, all labeled. A little more detail on this AC 110 panel. It shows our AC volts here, which is our incoming voltage coming from shore power. So that should show 110, 120, and it reads about 120, which is right where it should be. If the shore power breaker maybe on the dock was off, or the shore power just wasn't plugged in, then that would read 0. So because we're showing 120, that means we're plugged into shore power and it's working right. And then this shows our AC load over here. So if we had some stuff plugged into some of the outlets and maybe the water heater on, and that was all generating a load, that would read over here in amps. And we have microwave, galley outlet, forward outlet, salon outlet, ice maker, grill, so that's that one back there, and water heater, as well as just the main. Down here we have access to the domestic water pump and the hot water heater. It's right there, as well as some disconnects and a drain to drain the water heater for winterization. And you can, at this point, I'm touching the forward end of the aft fuel tank, and then a little further forward is the aft end of the forward fuel tank. So there's two centerline fuel tanks, 150 gallons each. Access to the sender and fills and fuel lines coming off that forward tank right here. Access to all that for the aft tank is back under the cockpit. Okay, now we're gonna go up and check out the Flybridge. Come on up. So we have a really, really nice Flybridge. And keeping in mind, you know, this is a 32-foot boat and it's an outboard boat. So it's unique to have a Flybridge on an outboard boat, and it's a little unique to have a Flybridge on a 32-foot boat. So we have a Garmin screen up here, Yamaha screen, Garmin autopilot. So this is a Garmin. It's the same unit as the two that are down below, but with one we can do a combo and have chart and sonar or chart and radar. You can set up any number of combinations. Bow and stern thruster controls over here, engine controls here, 12-volt outlet here, VHF, horn. And then behind us we have this nice table and quite a bit of seating. So this seat will flip around so that you can have the seats facing each other, so you can seat 4 people up here comfortably around the table. The table comes out and we can store that down below, keep it out of the weather when it's not in use. And the table base unscrews and also stores down below. And then tightens back in. Nice and secure. So one of the really innovative features about this boat is the Flybridge collapses for trailering. We've got a pin here to pull, pin here. This folds down that way. Pull this pin here. This pin here, this folds down that way. There we go. Okay, and here it comes. So this is all assisted. So there's really, you can see I don't have a firm grip on this. There's not like a bunch of weight that I'm holding. There's gas shocks that are assisting this in coming down. So now that it's down, this piece pins. I don't know if you can see me, but I'm pinning the piece that I was just lowering to some hardware in the cockpit. So now it's secure. Now it's not going anywhere. So that's how that part of the Flybridge folds down. That's the solar panel. So this forward part folds down too. You may have noticed this big hinge right here on the way up. There's one on the other side. It does not flip back, it just lowers, which when you're trailering a boat this size, every inch makes a big difference. So it gets it down a few more inches. So there's these legs that support the forward part of the Flybridge underneath. So I'm gonna release the lock on either side and then pull the leg out, and then this just pushes down. Just like that. And it's, again, it's assisted by a gas shock. So if I let go here, it's gonna come right back up. So for trailering, you push it down and then put a strap over the top and strap it. I believe there's a cleat. Yeah, there's a docking cleat that you can attach the strap to on either side. So that holds it down. So I'm sure we can figure out how many inches that gets it down and overlay it over the video. I don't recall off the top of my head, but it appears to be 6 inches or so, which is significant when you're trailering a boat this size. So then to put it back into the operating configuration, you would release the strap after you've trailered it, and then return these legs to the forward position, re-engage the locks, which I've just done there, and there, and we're ready to go. That's it. It's easy. And then back here, we just do the opposite of what I did to lower it. Pull the pin down below, lift everything back up, which is assisted by that gas shock. Repin this stuff in place, and we're ready to go. So it really just takes a couple of minutes to convert all this stuff from the Flybridge configuration to the trailering configuration. Also good for covered marinas or boathouses where clearance is an issue. Okay, we've taken the 32 Command Bridge from Cutwater out onto Lake Washington. We're gonna do some performance testing and go through the navigation electronics and do a little walk around on the boat when it's underway and out on the water. So one of my favorite things about this boat are the outboard engines. They're running right now. We're out of gear, we're in neutral. You can't hear the engines at all. They're back there off the back of the boat, really smooth, really quiet. All we can hear is the sloshing of the water, which is totally normal. There's a gentle breeze today, so there's a light chop. And if we put it in gear, and give it a little bit of power, still, you almost can't hear the Yamahas. So you can have a conversation at a normal volume. It's just so quiet in here. So you can hear the water sloshing against the hull. That's it. So while we're underway, we have the Yamaha display here showing us our engine RPMs. So 1400, 1500. And then these can be configured in a lot of different ways. Currently, we have GPS speed right there. The units are set to miles per hour. That can be changed to knots, or I suppose kilometers an hour, if you wanted to do that. We can turn on the radar. So I've got the radar on the left Garmin here. We can see the shore of Lake Washington behind us. That dot over there, I can see there's a boat over there, so that all looks good, makes sense. We could do a split screen if we wanted, with maybe chart and radar. And then over here we have the depth sounder, fish finder, sonar. They can be in either configuration on either screen. There's a lot of flexibility with what you can do there. You can also do your gauges. You could pull up the engine information. So we have speed, GPS speed. This is all configurable. We've got engine RPMs, oil pressure, fuel, speed, coolant temp, voltage coming off the engines. And then here we have the autopilot. So we can engage that, and now it's just going to hold our heading. And we can make course corrections on here, and you can see it's turning the boat. So if I put in, let's say 245 degrees, it's going to turn us to 245 degrees and then just hold that heading. Now with these Garmin's, they do have the capability to do auto route generation. So you could put in a starting point and an ending point, and it'll create a route for you, and then you do have the ability to follow that route once you're on it with the autopilot. But you need to make sure to continue to pay attention. It's not going to be able to avoid logs in the water or other boats in the water. So you need to be alert and paying attention. It's not a substitute for staying at the helm and keeping an eye on the water. If I hit standby, it'll just go back into standby. And now I have control of the boat again. We'll run it up to speed here. And again, it's so quiet in here. I can hear kind of the hum of the engines behind us and the water on the hull bottom, but that's it. So this is wide open throttle. So we're at 5,700 RPMs and just under 48 miles per hour. So we're really moving. I'm going to back it off a bit. Let's let it settle in. Now we're at 4,500, 4,400 RPMs. Bump it up just a little to hold 45. And we've got about 28, 27 miles an hour at 4,500 RPMs. So this boat is really a performer. I mean, it really has no problem getting up and going. Let's see what 5,000 RPMs gives us. That's a pretty nice cruise speed right there on flat water, or mostly flat water. It's a light chop today. So that's 5,100 RPMs and 36 miles per hour. All right, I'm gonna make a gentle turn to the left to port. And back to starboard. Back it down to a cruise speed that you might find yourself doing in rougher water. So out on the Puget Sound, or even here on Lake Washington on a windy day, you're not going to be going that fast in any boat. So let's try out a more comfortable cruise speed. We're off plane now. So that's about 11 miles per hour, 2,600 RPMs, and it's just a nice, comfortable cruise. At speeds like this, you'll find yourself cruising a lot in the Puget Sound because the water just isn't always flat enough to go 30 or 40 miles an hour. I want to mention the power steering, and that is this. It's controlled right here. The power steering unit is back under the cockpit, but it makes it easy to steer the boat. You see, I just do that with my fingertip. Really, really easy to turn those motors. We can go back the other way. That's one finger. It's just effortless. So, and that's in the medium setting. If I change it to the high setting, it's even easier. And then the low setting, or the fish setting, it's still one finger. It's still just effortless. Really smooth, really nice. So without that, you still have your hydraulic steering. It's just not power assisted. So this would be what you would be used to on most boats, many boats. Still smooth, still feels great, but it's no longer a one finger operation. That would be uncomfortable. It's just stiffer. So I'll turn that power steering back on. We have the trim tabs right here for easy access to trimming the boat out when you're underway. Any boat is going to want to run a little different depending on how it's loaded, depending on where people are sitting in the boat, depending on the fuel load, the water load. So this allows you to trim it out, level it out as the boat's running, so that if you have more weight on one side or the other, it doesn't lean a little bit while underway. And it allows you to trim it out for best performance too, so the motors aren't having to push as hard. You get a little bit better fuel economy, and you can trim it out for better visibility too, which hasn't been an issue the whole time we've been out running this boat. It's just got excellent, excellent visibility, 360 degrees. I can see everything all around the boat. It's awesome. All right, so I've come up to the Flybridge. We had put the controls at the lower station in neutral, so we're ready to take control up here. There's a station selector button right here. We press that, and now we have control up here. I could hear the motor engage, barely. Still really quiet and smooth up here because of those outboards. Put it in gear, and in order to keep the wind noise down while I talk, we'll just cruise. So on a day like today, I can't imagine a better place to be running the boat. And that is that's the beauty of having a Flybridge. Right now we're doing 9 miles an hour, and we have all the same stuff up here. So we have a Garmin autopilot control, we have the Yamaha display, and we have one Garmin screen instead of two, but you can set up the combos, so you can have chart, radar, sonar, depth sounder, fish finder. You can have, engine instruments, you can have all that stuff on the one screen. Trim tab controls, bow and stern thruster controls here, VHF radio. So we're not missing anything up top. The boat feels really stable up here. When I turn, it doesn't list in the wrong direction. Might be a little more wind noise now. It feels like we're going into the wind. Speeds up to 11.5 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour. This would be a great kind of lower speed cruise for out in the sound, especially if it's rough, or if you're just not in a hurry to get somewhere. This is really nice. Okay, I'm going to speed the boat up a little bit, and the microphone's probably going to start cutting out due to the wind noise. So I'm not going to talk through this. I'm just going to speed up, and we'll get into a kind of a fast cruise and see what that looks like and feels like for a minute. So wide open, we were doing 50 miles an hour. Not too much wind up here. This Venturi does a great job. The Flybridge does a great job of blocking most of that wind. It's surprisingly comfortable for how fast we were going. So in the high 30s and around 40, it was really just quite comfortable. We're going to go up to the bow, and I'm going to show you some of the innovative features up there and along the way. This isn't a special or innovative feature, but it's just the water fill right there, and then the diesel fill right there. Diesel, so that would be for the diesel furnace, because this is a gas boat. So this extrusion that they've put along the side decks here to give you better footing as you walk the side decks up to the bow. This maximizes the interior volume and the interior space by allowing the cabin to be wider, but still having a really secure side deck. And there's a nice grab rail up top to hold on to. And so the grab rail combined with that extrusion that your feet are in, really it feels quite secure moving up to the bow. Up here we have 3 seats that fold away into nothing. So we'll start with this one in the middle. You're probably not gonna have this up if you're running the boat from the lower helm, but if you're running the boat from the upper station, somebody could be up here in this seat enjoying the view while you're underway. Wouldn't get much better than that. And then to make this disappear, unclip, unclip, store this cushion somewhere, and then the bottom part of the seat just folds up like that. There we go. Locks into place there, and that locks into place there. And then these seats, this is how these work. And to make these disappear, you just slide these cushions. There's a sleeve back here that the seat back goes in. So we just pull that out and fold that up. And when you're not using it as a seat, it's also really good storage because it's over a foot deep. Pretty big storage area down there. So now we have a nice clean bow area for running. Some of the other neat features up here. So up here we have the windlass. We have windlass controls up, down, right here. We have a small cleat right here underneath the chain to put a safety line onto the chain. And then up here we have a boarding ladder, beaching ladder, swim ladder. Well, the idea is that you can board the boat from the beach. So if you were to beach the boat, there we go. So we can get on and off the boat easily, pulled into a beach. And then back here, spotlight, the controls. You may recall from the lower and upper helms, there's controls, and then digital TV antenna in here. Something I forgot to point out earlier when we were going into the stateroom is how this door works. You just close this like that, and slide this across the top. And now we have a nice private stateroom. Okay, we're about to pull back into the marina. So I'm gonna show you how easy the bow and stern thrusters make this process. The slip, I'm turning them on right now. So to turn the bow and stern thrusters on, you press and hold this button in the middle, and then these two lights light up. You can give them a quick bump to test them. The slip that we're gonna put the boat in is pretty tight. So it's a good demonstration of how easy this is gonna make it. So I'm going to go down this fairway here, past the bigger boat, and then back it into a smaller slip on the inside. One thing that's really important in a marina is to keep in mind that a low speed, slow speed impact is much better than hitting something under power. Sometimes people have a natural reaction to apply more power to try and get out of a tricky situation, and that's just not what you want to do. You want to keep your speed as slow as possible, very little power. That way, if you do end up bumping into something, it's going to do less damage. So we've reached a point where it's time to start backing the boat up. So I'm bringing it to a stop. Now I'm going to use the thrusters to start turning the boat. And then I'm going to use the engines to start backing up a little bit. Just a little bit at a time. I'm going to use some more thruster. That's the stern thruster. Little bow thruster, the opposite direction. Nice and slow. And because of the excellent visibility on this boat, I can see everything I need to see. So everything is nice and slow and controlled. We're kind of turning the boat into the slip. Without the bow and stern thrusters, this would be just more complicated. I'd be doing more with the steering wheel and the motors, and I wouldn't have quite the level of control that I do with the thrusters. So now we're into the slip partially, a couple feet away from the dock, a couple feet away from a boat on the other side. We're centered, so I can just back it the rest of the way in, nice and easy and slow. And the lines and fenders are all ready, which you definitely want to do before you get into the marina. We're pretty much there. And it went great. So right now we have the benefit of having somebody on the dock tying up the boat. So I'm just keeping the bow close, and now he's got the bow line on the dock. So we are done with the control that the bow and stern thrusters give you. It just eliminates the fear and anxiety that sometimes comes into play when you're docking the boat, especially backing it into a slip in a tight marina like this. It just makes it really, really easy. Really nice. Thank you for taking the time to join us on the 32 Command Bridge from Cutwater. I hope you find this boat as exciting as I do. It has so many new innovative features, and if you'd like to learn more about it, give us a call or come into one of our locations and we would be more than happy to show you the boat. Thanks a lot.